The marble floor of the main bathroom was colder than the February river had ever been. Amelia Harper knelt on it at 31 years old, one palm pressed to the left side of her chest where something inside had just torn wide open. The pain was white-hot, oceanic. She couldn't scream. There wasn't enough air. All she could do was stare up at the two people standing in the doorway and try to understand how love had become this. Jacob Reed, her husband of 7 years, wore the same navy cashmere sweater she'd bought him for Christmas. The sleeves were pushed up just enough to reveal the Rolex she'd also paid for. Behind him, half hidden in his shadow, Sophia Vaughn, her maid of honor, her college roommate. The woman who used to cry into Amelia's lap over every failed date had one hand resting possessively on Jacob's back. Amelia's voice came out as a cracked whisper. "Call 911. Jacob didn't move. He looked almost bored. Sophia's lips curled, not quite a smile. "You should be grateful." Amelia. The words didn't make sense at first. Grateful. She had paid for the brownstone they were standing in. She had funded Jacob's hedge fund launch when every bank laughed him out of the room. She had smiled through years of negative pregnancy tests after the accident that shredded her ovaries. She had aged into someone quiet and proper, while they had grown loud and beautiful together. Grateful. Jacob sighed like a man inconvenienced by a late Uber. "We talked about this." "Babe," he said to Sophia, not to Amelia. "She's dramatic. She'll milk it for attention, and then—" "I'm dying," Amelia rasped. The pain clawed deeper. "Jacob, please." He finally looked at her. For one heartbeat, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just the annoyance of a loose end. Then Sophia's fingers tightened on his sweater. "Let her finish," Sophia murmured, soft enough that only he could hear. "No mess." The bathroom door closed with a soft, expensive click. Amelia stayed on her knees for a long time. Long enough for the pain to crest, for her vision to tunnel, for the last coherent thought to slice through her like glass. They planned this. The hit and run the night before her bar exam, the motorcycle that came out of nowhere on the Longfellow Bridge, the weeks in ICU, the internal bleeding, the doctor's quiet voice. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Reed, the damage is permanent." Jacob was crying at her bedside. "Sophia brings flowers every single day." It had never been random. The room went dark, and then impossibly there was light again. Amelia opened her eyes to the smell of burnt coffee and the tinny sound of a 2015 Spotify playlist leaking from someone else's headphones. She was 24. The dorm room was exactly as she'd left it the first time, string lights sagging over the window, casebooks stacked like Jenga on the desk, a half-eaten bag of Sour Patch Kids fossilizing on the nightstand. Her phone, rose gold iPhone 6s, cracked in the upper left corner, read 17 a.m. February 15th, the morning of the Massachusetts bar exam. Her hands flew to her chest. No pain, no scar from the emergency C-section that never happened because there had never been a baby to save. Just smooth skin and a heartbeat that felt too strong, like it was making up for lost time. Reborn? The word tasted ridiculous and inevitable at the same time. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and caught her reflection in the mirror taped to the closet door. Same sharp cheekbones, same exhausted shadows under the eyes that came from pulling all-nighters for people who never thanked her. But the eyes themselves, those were different, older, predatory. She remembered dying on Italian marble. She remembered Jacob's bored face. She remembered Sophia's almost smile. And she remembered the crimson trench coat. It was hanging on the back of the door exactly where Jacob had left it the night before, still in the Barney's garment bag. He'd shown up unannounced after her last con law review session, kissed her like he hadn't seen her in months instead of days, and presented it like a proposal. "For luck tomorrow," he'd said, pressing the bag into her arms. "Wear it. I want everyone to see how gorgeous my future wife looks when she crushes the bar." The coat was unmistakable blood-red wool, oversized brass buttons, a dramatic collar that turned heads on the street. Jacob had picked it out himself. He'd bragged one of a kind. Amelia stared at it now and felt something inside her chest click into place, cold and precise as a magazine sliding home. She knew exactly what would happen to girls who wore that coat the next day. She opened her phone and scrolled to Sophia's contact, still saved with the red heart emoji she'd added the first year after they split a bottle of cheap Prosecco and swore they'd be sisters forever. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, Amelia. 6:23. A.M. Hey, you still need something killer to wear tomorrow? Jacob got me this insane red trench, but it's too big on me. Your taller would look ridiculous if I tried to wear it in court someday, lol. Want it? The reply bubbles appeared almost instantly. Sophia? 24? Shut up. Are you serious? Sophia? 24A? M. That coat is fire. Yes, yes, yes. Sophia's 25A. Can I swing by now? I'm literally 2 blocks away getting coffee and having a fashion crisis. Amelia smiled at the screen. It wasn't a nice smile. Amelia, 26A. Door's unlocked. I'm jumping in the shower, but it's hanging on the chair. Take it and slay, babe, tomorrow. She set the phone face down, walked to the chair, and unzipped the garment bag. The coat spilled out like fresh blood. She ran her fingers over the brass buttons, then draped it carefully over the back of the chair, exactly where it would be the first thing someone saw when they walked in. She left a post-it on the lapel in her neat, lethal handwriting. Good luck tomorrow. Tss, you're going to kill it, eh? Then she grabbed her black wool peacoat, the one nobody ever noticed, pulled a plain knit beanie low over her hair, and slipped out the side exit of the dorm. The Charles River glittered under the streetlights, black and patient. February wind knifed straight through her. She stood on the sidewalk for a long moment and stared at the exact spot where, 24 hours from now, a stolen motorcycle would roar up onto the curb. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She was counting. Counting the seconds until Sophia walked into that dorm room. Counting the minutes until Jacob realized the wrong woman was wearing his gift. Counting the years she would take from them for everyone they stole from her. Amelia pulled the beanie lower, shoved her hands into her pockets, and started walking toward the exam hall by the longest possible route. Behind her, the crimson coat waited like bait in a trap that had taken 7 years and 1 death to set. She didn't look back. The February cold bit harder than Amelia remembered, but the pain felt clean like punishment she had already paid for. She reached the exam center 40 minutes early, her black coat buttoned to the throat, her black beanie pulled low, her face bare of anything that could catch the light, just another exhausted 3L melting into the herd of anxious souls clutching coffee and highlighters. Nobody looked twice. Inside the hall, she chose a seat in the back left corner, far from the windows. She laid out her pencils like surgical instruments and waited for the proctor to call time. At 8:57 a.m., her phone vibrated once on silent. Sophia, 57 a.m., wearing the coat. And I already have 3 marriage proposals on the Thank you, babe, you're literally an angel. Amelia stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then she turned the phone face down and never looked at it again. The exam began. She wrote like someone possessed clean, lethal answers flowing straight from muscle memory and 7 extra years of rage. Constitutional law, contracts, evidence. Every question felt like a small, precise act of revenge. When the final bell rang, she was the first to stand, stacking her booklet with steady hands. Outside, Boston was already gossiping. A crowd had gathered near the law school plaza. Phones were pointed toward the Longfellow Bridge, a quarter-mile away, where blue police lights strobed against the iron railing. Someone was shouting. Someone else was crying. Amelia stepped into the sunlight and immediately saw him. Jacob Reed stood on the edge of the crowd, coatless despite the cold, hair wild like he'd been dragging his hands through it for hours. He was grabbing strangers by the sleeve, voice cracking. Have you seen Sophia Crimson Trenchcoat? Long, dark hair, she was supposed to meet me here. His eyes swept the plaza, frantic, until they locked on Amelia. For one suspended heartbeat, the world narrowed to just the 2 of them. Jacob's face cycled through emotions too fast to track relief she's alive. Confusion, wrong coat. Then pure animal panic as the truth slammed home. Amelia lifted one eyebrow, almost gently. Jacob shoved through the crowd like a drowning man fighting for the surface. When he reached her, he seized her wrist so hard the bones ground together. "You changed everything," he hissed under his breath, smile plastered on for the onlookers. "Why the hell didn't you tell me? Let go of me, Jacob." Her voice was winter calm. "People are filming." He glanced around, yes. Half a dozen phones were already up and released her as she'd burned him. Around them, the story was assembling itself in real time. A girl in a red coat got hit by a bike on the bridge. They're saying she went into the river. Rescue boats, some homeless guy jumped in. Jacob's pupils were blown wide. "Walk with me," he muttered, trying to steer her away from the crowd. Amelia didn't move. "I have someplace to be. Amelia." His fingers twitched like he wanted to grab her again. "We need to talk about what happens next." She studied him the way a coroner studies a body, curious, clinical, already knowing the cause of death. "Actually," she said softly, "everything that needs to happen already has." Then she stepped around him and walked away. Behind her, she heard his phone ring. He answered, voice cracking on the first syllable. "Soph. Jesus Christ. Where are you?" "The hospital." "Which one? I'm coming, baby. Stay with me." Amelia kept walking. The wind off the Charles tasted like metal and justice. Massachusetts General smelled like antiseptic and hysteria. Amelia borrowed a set of Navy scrubs from a friend doing clerkship rotations. No one questioned another exhausted law student in hospital gear. She kept her head down, badge flipped backward, and followed the trail of shouting to the trauma bay. Sophia's mother was already there, mascara carving black rivers down Botoxed cheeks. Screaming at a nurse, "This is that Harper girl's fault. She gave my daughter that coat." Amelia slipped past the circus and found the bay itself. Sophia lay under harsh fluorescent lights, lips blue, hair still dripping Charles River water onto the pillow. An IV line disappeared into the crook of her elbow. The heart monitor beeped a furious, alive rhythm. Her eyes were open, fixed on the ceiling like she was reading tomorrow's headlines written there. Amelia pulled the curtain half closed and stepped into her line of sight. Sophia's gaze snapped down. Recognition detonated across her face. Shock, terror, hatred. "You," she croaked. "Hi, Amelia kept her voice low, almost tender. "You look cold." Sophia tried to sit up. The monitors screamed. A nurse poked her head in, saw Amelia's borrowed scrubs, and retreated. "You did this," Sophia whispered. "You knew." Amelia dragged the plastic visitor chair closer and sat. "Let me tell you a story," she said conversationally. 7 years from now, you'll be standing in my bathroom watching me die on the floor. Jacob will close the door, and you'll tell me I should be grateful. But today, the river took the wrong girl." Sophia's breath hitched. "You're insane." "Maybe." Amelia leaned in until their faces were inches apart. Jacob picked that coat because it photographs well from a distance. The rider only had 3 seconds to aim. All he was told was, red coat, long dark hair. Guess whose idea the color was? Sophia's eyes flooded. He already did." Amelia murmured. "Once? He just missed." The curtain ripped open. Sophia's mother lunged, clawing for Amelia's throat. "You little bitch." Security was there in seconds. 2 orderlies hauling the woman back. Amelia stood calmly, hands raised in surrender. "I was checking on my friend," she said, voice trembling just enough to sell it. "I'm so sorry, I'll go." She was almost at the door when Sophia screamed. Raw and broken Amelia turned. Sophia's face was a ruin of mascara and river water and pure animal fear. "Fix this," she begged. "Please. I can't my reputation if people think Amelia tilted her head, almost sympathetic. "Funny," she said. "That's precisely what I said the night you let me die." Then she walked out. In the hallway, her phone buzzed with a Boston Globe alert woman in viral crimson coat rescue identified video shows. Homeless veteran performing mouth-to-mouth on Harvard law grad. The clip was already at 1.2 million views. Amelia watched at once Sophia sputtering awake on the riverbank while a bearded man in an army jacket breathed life into her lungs. Her red coat torn open to the waist, cameras rolling. She closed the app, dropped the borrowed scrubs in a laundry bin, and stepped back into the cold. The city smelled like snow coming. Somewhere behind her, Sophia Vaughn's old life was drowning in the Charles River, and the new one, the one where she was Crimson Coat Girl forever, was already going viral. Amelia pulled her black beanie lower and started walking toward whatever came next. She wasn't smiling anymore. She didn't need to. The river had done it for her. They hit back faster and harder than she expected. 3 nights after the river, Amelia woke to her phone screaming with bank alerts. Every account tied to the Harper Family Trust, $6,432,000 was gone. Transferred at 3:14 to a Cayman entity she didn't recognize. By sunrise, the bar admission board had frozen her score release, an anonymous ethics complaint with time-stamped photos. Amelia allegedly paying a disheveled man in a Harvard hoodie for exam answers behind the law library. The man's face was blurred just enough to be unidentifiable. The girl in the photos was unmistakably her. Jacob never even bothered to hide his fingerprints. At 10:07 a.m., Sophia posted a 30-second TikTok from her hospital bed. Bruised. Beautiful. Voice trembling. Some people destroy your life and still get to wear white at the end of it. I just wanted to take the bar exam. That's all I ever wanted. The caption, Crimson Coat Girl, Justice for Sophia. It hit 10 million views before lunch. Amelia sat on the floor of her dorm, back against the radiator, and felt the walls close in for the first time since coming back. She had won the first battle. They had just declared war. That afternoon, Jacob texted from a new number. Jacob Chemfianxiong, PM, parking garage, level 3, come alone. Or the subsequent leak is the video of you buying Adderall in your sophomore year. You won't practice law in any state. She went. The garage smelled of exhaust and wet concrete. Jacob waited beside her assigned parking spot, leaning against her car like he still owned pieces of her. He looked worse than she'd ever seen him, eyes red, jaw unshaven, cashmere sweater replaced by a wrinkled Oxford. Withdrawal or guilt, she couldn't tell. You look like shit, she said. He didn't smile. You took everything from me. I took nothing you hadn't already stolen first. He stepped forward, voice dropping to a snarl. You think this ends with Sophia in the river? That money gone, your bar score buried? By tomorrow, the DA will have a nice little file about how you orchestrated everything. Jealous fiancé frames innocent best friend. Attempted murder. Amelia, they'll disbar you before you ever swear in. She felt it then, the old terror. The one that used to keep her small and quiet and grateful. It tasted like river water in the back of her throat. Jacob saw it flicker across her face and smiled for the first time. Come here. He lunged. She sidestepped at the last second. His momentum carried him shoulder first into a concrete pillar, with a sound like a branch snapping. He slid down the pillar, gasping, blood already threading from his hairline. Amelia crouched beside him, perfectly calm. Listen carefully, she whispered. I recorded every word you just said. If anything happens to me, if I stub my toe, the file auto-sends to the Boston Globe, the Massachusetts BBO, and your mother's church prayer chain. He tried to laugh. It came out wet. You won't win this, he rasped. You never could without me. She stood. Watch me. As she walked away, he shouted after her, voice cracking. You'll always be that girl who needed rescuing, Amelia. You'll always be weak. She didn't look back. That night, she moved out of the dorm and into a studio apartment paid for in cash under a dead aunt's name. She bought a burner phone, a new laptop, and a bottle of bourbon she didn't open. Then she started digging. They thought they had burned her world down. They forgot she already knew where all the bodies were buried. First came Jacob's trading logs, 3 years of texts with a Goldman analyst named GolfBro88 containing tomorrow's earnings numbers before they were public. Amelia had watched him delete them the first time around. This time, she had never let him. She packaged the files with a polite cover letter and sent them from an anonymous Proton Mail account to every major financial news desk in New York City. Subject line, Read Capital LLP. Insider trading evidence, exclusive. By Monday, the SEC had frozen his accounts. Investors filed clawback suits before lunch. Next was Sophia's brother, Connor Vaughn, freshman congressional staffer for a rising star senator from New Hampshire. Amelia overnighted him a plain manila envelope containing 8 Pi 10 glossies. Sophia and Jacob in the back of a campaign bus, white powder on a mirrored phone screen, time-stamped 2 weeks after the river. Connor called his sister exactly once. The disownment was quiet, brutal, and permanent. Sophia showed up at Amelia's new apartment 3 days later, gaunt and shaking, wedding dress bag over one arm like a corpse. "You won," she said at the threshold, voice hollow, happy. Amelia blocked the doorway. "You came here to surrender." "I came to warn you." Sophia's eyes were bloodshot. "Jacob's not done. He's different now. He doesn't sleep. He keeps saying your name like a prayer and a curse." "Let him come." Sophia laughed. A cracked sound. "You still don't get it. You started this war, but you're fighting it like it's a game of chess." Jacob stopped playing chess the day the money disappeared. He's playing with fire now. She unzipped the wedding dress bag and let it fall. Inside was not a dress, but a matte black Glock and a single photograph Amelia asleep in her new apartment, taken through the window 2 nights ago. "He's watching," Sophia whispered, "and he's done waiting." Amelia stared at the gun, then at Sophia's trembling hands. "Get inside," she said quietly. Sophia stepped over the threshold like a ghost. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, the gun on the coffee table between them like a third person. "I hated you," Sophia said after a long silence every day since we were 20. "You had the money, the brains, the future. I just had him. You could have had anything else. I didn't want anything else." More silence. "Then he's going to kill you," Sophia said, "or make you kill him. He flips a coin every morning now. I've seen it." Amelia felt the old terror again, but this time it was colder. She had planned for every move except the one where Jacob stopped caring who he took with him. She reached across the table and took the gun. Sophia didn't stop her. "Leave Boston," Amelia said. "Tonight, there's a bus to Montreal at 11. Please take it. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not even me." Sophia stared at her as if she were speaking another language. "Why would you help me?" "Because I'm not you," Amelia said. "And because if you die first, he wins." Sophia left at 10:43 p.m., with nothing but the clothes on her back and a Greyhound ticket Amelia bought with cash. Amelia locked the door, loaded the Glock, and waited for dawn. Jacob came for her on a Tuesday in April, the day his indictment was unsealed. He used the fire escape. Amelia was at the kitchen counter, reviewing the discovery, when the window slid open without a sound. She had the gun in her hand before he finished climbing through. He looked like a man who had burned himself down to the wick eyes sunken, cheekbones sharp enough to cut, suit hanging off him as if it belonged to someone larger. "Hi, wife," he said softly. "Ex-fiancé," she corrected. He smiled the way people do when they've already died inside. Details. They stood 10 feet apart in the tiny studio, city lights strobing across their faces. "I lost everything," he said. "The firm, the money, my name. Sophia's gone. Did you know that just vanished? Probably sucking dick for bus fare in some Canadian nowhere." Amelia kept the gun steady. "You came here to gloat. I came here to finish it." He reached into his coat slowly, too slowly, and pulled out a single red ribbon, the exact shade of the crimson trench coat, one last gift. He let it flutter to the floor between them. "I used to love you," he said, almost wonderingly, "back when you were useful." "I never stopped," Amelia answered. That was the problem. Something shifted in his face, grief or recognition. Impossible to tell. Then the madness rushed back in. He charged. She fired once, center mass. The sound was enormous in the small room. Jacob kept coming, blood blooming across his white shirt like spilled wine, until his momentum carried him into her. They crashed to the floor together. He pinned her wrist to the hardwood, breath wet against her cheek. "You were supposed to be grateful," he whispered. She headbutted him hard enough to see stars. His grip loosened for half a second long enough, Amelia twisted free, brought the gun up under his chin. "Rotten hell, Jacob!" The second shot took the top of his head off. She lay under his dead weight for a long time, feeling the warmth leave him, listening to the distant sirens start their climb up Beacon Hill. When the police kicked in the door 23 minutes later, they found her sitting against the wall, covered in his blood, gun on the floor, hands open and empty. Security footage showed Jacob breaking in, showed him attacking first, and showed her fighting for her life. The DA ruled justifiable homicide before the sun came up. 6 months later, Amelia Harper, top 1% on the rescheduled bar. Clerkship offers from 3 federal judges stood on the roof of her new corner office at the Public Defender's Clinic overlooking the Charles. The river was calm tonight, its surface a black glass under the city lights. She wore a new coat, black, severe, expensive. Some nights, she still tasted river water when she closed her eyes. Some mornings she woke, reaching for a child who was never conceived. But the dawn always came. And Amelia Harper had learned something Jacob and Sophia never understood. You don't need to win every battle. You need to be the one still standing when the kingdom burns. She lit a cigarette with shaking fingers, her first in 7 years, plus 1 lifetime, and watched the smoke curl into the night. Somewhere below, the city continued to move forward, oblivious to the fact. Somewhere across the river, a crimson coat hung in an evidence locker, waiting for a trial that would never come. Amelia exhaled, dropped the cigarette, and crushed it under her heel. Then she went downstairs to take a murderer's case no one else would touch. Because some people still needed rescuing. And she was done drowning.